Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We're learning Mishnah Sukkah, Parak Aleph, Chapter 1, Mishnah Yud, Mishnah 10. Now, this Mishnah is really going to be a repeat of a principle that we mentioned previously in three different scenarios. So here we go. Bayis shenivchas v'sichech al gabav. A house that the roof caved in. So you got this big hole in the middle of the roof. And then you decide, I'll turn it into a sukkah. V'sichech al gabav. And then you put schach on top of the hole. So what you basically have is, you've got, let's say, 4 walls. It's a house. You've got what's left of the original roof, which is puzzle for schach. That's invalid for schach, even if it was made from the kosher materials of schach. Because if it was made to be part of a house, it's not good. It can't be used for schach. So you've got what's left of the roof, and then you have the schach that you added. Okay, so between the wall and the schach, you've got invalid schach. Got the rest of the roof, that's invalid. The kosher schach is being separated from the wall by not kosher schach. So we say like this: if from the wall to the kosher schach you have 4 amas, 4 cubits, 7.5 feet, let's just say around, psula, your sukkah is invalid. Because in that situation, once you have a distance of 4 amas between the kosher schach and the wall, that means now the wall and the schach are separated. If they're separated, then the schach has no wall. Now, in this case, you've got that. We're talking about all around. This is the way it was. Okay. So, if all around, or even whatever, let's just keep it simple. If all around, right, you had 4 amas between the wall and the kosher schach, that means the schach has no walls. If, let's say, now again, a house usually has 4 walls, right? So, if this was only a problem by 1 wall, we wouldn't care. Because because 3 walls is enough for a kosher sukkah, as long as you have enough kosher schach on top. You always have to have it in order for it. Now we'll get back to that. Okay. Now the Mishnah says that if there's 4 amas between the wall and the schach, the sukkah is pasul, and if there's less than 4 amas, it's kosher. Why? Because of the principle of daifan akuma. The wall bends, right? If you have a wall and then you have solid unkosher schach, I can consider that unkosher covering, whatever it may be, as an extension of the wall. The wall bends over and reaches to the schach. But that principle can only be applied up to 4 cubits. Once the distance is already 4 cubits between the wall and the non-kosher schach, Dofen Akuma doesn't help anymore. Can't apply the principle anymore.
Why does Lavud not fit in?
Lavud is only when you have space. Lavud have to be empty.
Empty space.
Empty space. But in this case, the point is you've got the schach, and it's a non-kosher schach. So again, if it's up to 4 cubits, then I'll have the extension of the wall leading up to the schach. And as we've said previously, you have to at least have enough kosher schach that would cover the minimum size of a sukkah, which is 7 tvachim by 7 tvachim. Okay, and even if we say that the sukkah is kosher, you can't sit under the non-kosher schach part in order to do your mitzvah. But at the end of the day, this will be a kosher sukkah. Okay, that's scenario number 1. Next, v'chein chotzer shehi mukevas achsadra. They translate this as a courtyard that is surrounded by a porch. Now, you're gonna have to take a look at this picture. It's not a very big picture, but I think to get the understanding of it. So in this scenario, right, you see it's a courtyard, and it's surrounded by houses.
Right.
And on top of the houses, you see that extension. It's like a porch that's sticking that's projecting out. So the case here is that you have you start off with you have a chutzner, courtyard, surrounded by houses. And now from the houses, you've got this porch that's projecting out. So everybody says, let's make a big sukkah out of it. Let's put a sukkah over, let's put schach over the porch, between porch to porch. It'll cover over the airspace, and we'll have a big sukkah, one big happy family sukkah, right? So again, if you got a courtyard that is surrounded by a roofed porch, same thing. If between the wall and the schach is 4 cubits, those porches that are extending out are 4 cubits long, 4 cubits wide, and therefore between the wall and the schach there's 4 cubits, puzzle. It's not a good sukkah. If there's less than 4 cubits, 4 amas, between the schach and the walls, then we look at those porches as an extension of the wall. The wall bends. The wall bends. My walls now reach to the schach. I have a kosher sukkah, but I can only again sit under the kosher schach. Next case. Sukkah gedola, a big sukkah. Now, it's not that big. It means that you're starting off with a minimum size sukkah. 7 tvachim by 7 tvachim of kosher schach. That is what you're starting off with. Shekifua bedavar she'e mesachichin bai. That you then surrounded it with material that you can't use for schach. So just to show you a picture, right? This is really, it's really another case of a house in many ways. This case, I have it as 3 walls. So you see on top here is the kosher schach, right?
Dark stuff.
That dark stuff is the kosher schach. And then around it is just this solid stuff. That's not kosher schach. Okay? So sukkah gedola, a large sukkah, meaning you're starting with the amount of schach covering the area for a minimum kosher sukkah. Shekifua bedavar she'e mesachim ba. Again, you surrounded it with material that you can't use for schach. Excuse me. Im yesh taktav arba amais psula. If under it, meaning if where the non-kosher schach has been put, there is an area of 4 cubits, meaning between the kosher schach and the wall, again, psula, the sukkah is going to be puzzle. Because if I have 4 cubits between the kosher schach and the wall, I can't say the wall bends over. If I have less than 4 amas between the kosher schach and the wall of this not kosher schach material, then we say dofen akuma, the wall bends, and then everything is kosher. At least the sukkah is kosher. You have to make sure you stay under the schach. Okay, now let me read to you here from the notes here. Some very important things to know. Okay, all the Mishna's cases are of invalid schach that is at the side of the sukkah, right? In all our cases, it's all around, right? Now, if a strip of invalid schach runs through the middle of the sukkah, more than 4 amas from the walls, where the principle of dofen akuma bent wall does not apply, it divides the sukkah into 2 parts. Now, let me show you a picture. Okay, in this picture, right on top of the sukkah, they got this board. That's a piece of non-kosher schach. Okay, and they were talking about a piece of non-kosher schach that. Just 1 second. Right. So that piece of kosher schach is going through along the whole sukkah. Now, if that piece of schach would have been within 4 amas of the wall, then I would just say bend the wall. Right? The wall will bend. The kosher schach will also be part of the bent wall, and so will that strip of non-kosher schach. And the sukkah can still be kosher as long as you have an area covered by kosher schach of 7 tvachim by 7 tvachim. But in this case, that's not where the non-kosher schach was. Thus, if the sukkah is made, and we're talking about where that piece of schach is going through the whole sukkah. Thus, if the sukkah is made with 3 walls, each part is invalid because it now has only 2 walls. You basically cut it in half. However, even a strip of invalid schach that runs through the middle of a sukkah does not divide it unless the strip is at least 4 tefachim wide. Okay? The strip, this piece of non-kosher schach to divide your sukkah, to be considered divided your sukkah, separated your sukkah, that strip of non-kosher schach has to be at least 4 tefachim wide. If it's less than 4 tefachim wide, it doesn't affect anything. Doesn't affect it. Now, we learned in the previous Mishnah that a gap of empty space at the side of a sukkah separates the adjacent wall from the sukkah, even if the gap is only 3 tefachim wide, right? Meaning, in a case where between the wall and the kosher schach is airspace, so it's less than 3 tefachim, I say love it, it's like it's closed. If it's 3 tvachim, if the airspace I can't say love it anymore, and I have a space between the wall and the schach. The schach doesn't have the wall. It's only 3 walls. It's not going to be kosher. What happens if I have airspace in the middle of the sukkah? The same is true of a gap that runs through the middle of a sukkah. It divides the sukkah into two, even if it's only 3 tvachim wide. In an airspace that's 3 tvachim wide is going to divide your sukkah the same way a piece of non-kosher schach that's 4 tvachim wide. It means airspace is worse than non-kosher schach. Airspace is going to divide once it hits 3 tvachim. And if 3 tvachim wide, because they can't say love it. Less than 3 tvachim, I would say love it. It's like it's closed up. But if I go ahead but if I have 3 tvachim of airspace where I can't say love it, I have divided my sukkah into 2. And therefore, if I only start off with 3 walls, I'll only have 2 walls left, and the sukkah won't be kosher. But if what's dividing the sukkah in half is a piece of non-kosher schach, that will only affect the sukkah if it's 4 tvachim wide. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.